How do you deal with that? Egypt and Jordan both condemning Israel, your two allies in the region. They're saying that your Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has overplayed his hand and possibly is undermining Israeli security. What do you say to that?
There's a wrong side and a right side. The wrong side is the side that shoots thousands of missiles on civilians. What Israel is doing now is the right thing. We're defending ourselves. That's the right thing to do.
Ed, is Naftali right? There's a wrong side and there's a right side?
It's not as simple as that. It's not as black and white as that, unfortunately. On the other side, there are also people who are dying. 20 people have died today, dozens more injured, and I suspect overnight we will see more deaths. So the carnage on both sides doesn't necessarily help anybody.
Naftali, with the escalation that we've seen that is so disturbing on our television screens, what is next? Does Israel send in ground troops? Does this become a full-out war? Or is there do the peace talks somehow out of this, hard to imagine, start again?
You know, when someone is determined to eliminate you, when their own charter says that they have to wipe out the Jewish state, when they shoot thousands of missiles from an area that was vacated, no more Jews living in Gaza. It was supposed to become the Singapore of the Middle East, but instead they turned it into a launch pad of thousands of missiles. There's nothing to talk about. We have to defend ourselves. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the Western world. With terror, you don't talk.
You don't
There's
defend,
no dialogue
you don't defend
with
yourself,
Osama
I'm
bin
sorry,
Laden.
and you don't owe it to the Western world. You're putting the Western world at greater risk.
You know, if New Jersey was being bombarded by missiles coming from a foreign state, the United States of America would retaliate, would stop that right away. We've taken missiles for the past 8 years coming out of the Gaza Strip. We've vacated the Gaza Strip. There's not one Jew living there, yet instead of turning it into a haven of peace, they've turned it into a launch pad of terror.
Going to battle, going to war every 5 to 6 years does not help Israel's cause, nor does it help the West. You are fueling anti-Americanism in the region, and you are bringing security risks to your own citizens and to your own state. For how much longer will you continue to repeat the failed method since 1948? This has been the repeated stance of the Israelis to go to war and to fight. The only way out of this is to realize that the Palestinians were once in complete rejection and denial of the existence of the State of Israel, to where they are now, prepared to accept 67 borders in exchange only for 22% of the land that was taken from them. That's a huge advance. Bank that, work on it, build trust, take the West with you, rather than constantly hold the West hostage to your domestic political calculations.
That's simply false. There's no, that's nonsense. We vacated land. Every time we vacated a piece of land, handed it over to the Palestinians, what we got in return was a mass wave of terror. We have to learn the lesson. Just as the United States or President Obama would not imagine to negotiate with Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, that's exactly the situation. You know where you're sitting right now. The land of Israel is not occupied. The land of Israel belongs to the Jewish state.
Say that
We've
to
been
the
here.
3 million Palestinians who you occupy. And that's not the point. The point is that
the Palestinians have their own land, and instead of using it for a peaceful entity of their own, they're using it to shoot my own kids. You know, I'm a major reserve in the army. I've served in many combat missions. We want peace. Believe me, I want peace more than anyone. I have no desire to go out and fight and risk myself and have my kids become orphans. That's not something we want to do. But faced with a very determined radical Islamic enemy that wants to wipe us out, I'll be very clear. We're going to stand strong. We're not going to give in to any radical Islamists that want to kill us. We're going to fight as much as necessary to protect the Jewish state.
Yeah, but that kind of grandstanding, pompous statement, you know, black and white claptrap, doesn't necessarily ensure the long-term safety of the State of Israel, which is something that we're all interested in. And the only way you achieve that is by waging a battle of hearts and minds on the people of Gaza and bringing on board the majority of the people with you.
Is that what the United States
did? Hamas charter, you don't get anywhere. We did not bring peace in Northern Ireland by citing the charter of the Sinn Féin. The way you do that is by building trust, by building initiatives on the ground, and by reaching out via third parties. You have an ideal opportunity now to rescue the two-state solution on the deathbed. Unless it's done at this juncture with this Obama administration now, I'm afraid Israelis will be returning constantly to the psychological torture that they impose both on Tel Aviv and now in Gaza and southern Israel and elsewhere. The failed policies of the last 60 years of constant warfare every 5 and 10 years cannot be the way forward. You must revise your strategy going forward and end this bombarding of people inside Gaza tonight and beyond.
Naftali, final word.
You know, I was in New York on September 11th. I don't recall that on September 12th, the United States engaged in dialogue with Al-Qaeda, with terrorists who are determined to wipe out the Jewish state.
It's not the same as September 12th.
We have to stand strong.
This has been going on since 1948.
And it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
No, it's not.
And yes, Israel is at the forefront of a huge wave of radical Islam that's sweeping the entire Middle East. And I can tell you that I have 4 kids. I have no desire for them to go to war. I wanted to protect them. I hope that one day the Palestinians will get some sense and will stop shooting missiles at my own children. But until that time comes, we're going to be here to protect ourselves.